Hi, would you like to see a macro picture of what's happening in the world with Bitcoin, gold, the NASDAQ, and more? Let's jump in right now to see what's happening to Bitcoin. My name's Sam Price, the crypto lifer. I've been trading for over 17 years, and right now we're going to give you a macro analysis video of what's happening to BTC. Let's break it down right now and have some fun here. First thing we're going to jump on into is BTC here, and we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin on the weekly. We're going to see how the weekly's in a beautiful falling wedge. It still has what's called hidden bullish divergence as the RSI is pinning down while price action goes to the upside with a higher low. We also have the MACD about to turn and the stochastics extremely oversold. If you pull a Fibonacci from this wick here to this wick there, you can see that where you've wicked to the golden pocket, the Fibonacci 0.618 and the 0.65. Beautiful. If you don't have that on your Fib, go to your settings. You're going to actually have to go in and add the 0.65. I make it white and the 618 white. That way it stands out really quick. You can see the golden pocket very, very easily. This is a known retracement. We saw it right here. Bitcoin went from the impulse back down to the 618. We had a swing up. We had a swing down on the RSI. We were low in stochastic. MACD was turning. It looks just like that. They look extremely similar for a possible another big top here for BTC. So it does look like another leg is coming for Bitcoin based on the macro analysis. No guarantees, but the macro analysis looks great. And then if we just dabble with the daily, we're about to close a daily bullish engulfing candle, which was something we definitely need. And we've got bullish divergence on the daily too as well. That means that the RSI is moving up while the price action is moving down. So we have hidden bullish on the bigger and bullish divergence on the daily. This suggests that we will break the high that began the divergence. And that resistance takes you somewhere to 87,005. So next week when I show up, based off of, the probability here, I'm expecting Bitcoin to break above the 200 MA and maybe be somewhere between 90 and 93K. There's a good chance we could make a $10,000 move in the next week. If we come up and get rejected by the 200 MA or the 200 moving average, we're likely going to go further to the downside. So we got to break this yellow line on the macro. That's going to be our big level. Right now we're right below the 4 hour. And we're looking somewhat bullish. That's got to break too as well. But I don't want to get too into the smaller time frames. This is our macro analysis. Just want to really show you that weekly and the daily and show you that Bitcoin is beginning to look like it wants to break out off of bullish divergence and hidden bullish divergence as well. We're going to jump on into total. The entire market cap of all of cryptocurrency, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, had that key level it really needed to hold, but it dropped down to go to its next level. It is now making the bullish divergence, the hidden bullish. It looks just like Bitcoin. If Bitcoin can carry over, it's going to pull up. It has some big dominance right now, so it takes a chunk of the total market cap. So it will affect this total market. What we really need to see and what we would like to see is an inverted head and shoulder in here. So what I'm looking for is a shoulder, a head, a right shoulder, a possible breakout, and then a retest of $2.6 trillion, 2.64, and then a break further to the upside. Looks like by next week, we may be just making that right shoulder and getting ready to break out when I show up. Because today is now the 11th. We'll be back on the 18th of April. And so what we're looking for here on the daily is, maybe a continuation move on out here. And then maybe we're possibly starting to make that right shoulder. But we've pumped up a little bit to $2.8 trillion. So, some bullish signs here on the macro for the total market cap on the weekly and the daily. And there's, very oversold, looking for that bounce. Previous support is resistance. Your bearish scenario is if you basically slump. And again, it's back to that daily 200 MA. If you get up here and you get resistance of the daily, you could slump back down, right? So we want to see a clean breakout, and then we want to see us break above the daily 200 MA to continue to that point of control at $3.25 trillion. Total 3 is the entire market cap of all the altcoins, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's definitely something you want to pay attention to and take a look at. It's doing the same thing as we suggested. It lost that support, but it came down to the next choppy area. There's a big high volume node there, which makes sense. And it's the 618 golden pocket retracement. I'm expecting a bounce here back to the upside for the altcoins and Bitcoin. And for next week to be making maybe that right shoulder again, possibly we're somewhere up here at $812 billion. Moving forward, we go to the Bitcoin dominance chart and take a look at Bitcoin dominance If Bitcoin's about to go on a rally, we expect Bitcoin dominance to pump. And lo and behold, the last time we looked at it, we expected it to break out. It is breaking out. I see Bitcoin dominance expected to pump even more as people rush into Bitcoin, afraid to miss this next big move. And the FOMO really continues. We're seeing states start to buy Bitcoin, more and more people waking up, companies putting it on their balance sheet. And I believe it's only a matter of time to the Bitcoin that's out there that's scarce continues to get gobbled up. We take a look at Tether dominance because if money is leaving altcoins into Bitcoin or just getting into Bitcoin, we want to see that it's leaving Tether. We want to see that Tether is bleeding out. And Tether had a nice pump, but it's still sideways, and it's in a rising wedge here, or even in a more of a downtrend. I'd like to see this breach back inside and make a nasty dump here for Tether dominance. So important for our rally to continue that people are dumping Tether. And right now I see bearish divergence on Tether on the daily time frame, suggesting that we're going to possibly make, we're going to get that pump, then that one last maybe right shoulder, then it's shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then we dump back in to the dump side here for Tether dominance. We also want to make sure that we break back below this 200 MA on the 3-day chart. If not, there's still a chance that we could be in for some downside here. What if we flag out the 21 crosses and in 10 days somehow so if we show up next week and we're still like no signs of this breaking down, that could show that, because nothing's guaranteed. We have to play the probabilities one day at a time. But so far, it looks like we'll make one right shoulder, bearish divergence can kick in, and then we'll get this drop in Tether dominance. That brings me to the DXY because Tether dominance is somewhat correlated, and we're going to take a look at the DXY. Beautiful dump for Bitcoin. That produces what you need, the pumpage for the altcoins and everything else in the game. You take a look at this. I'm going to just delete everything now. But you take a look at it and you're back inside this bigger range. You broke out. You fell back inside in a way. You could say something like this. My idea is I just stick to the 200 MA. As long as we stay below it on the 3-day chart, we knew when that candle closed we were bearish. We dumped. It did come back to a key range here. The DXY, which it may want to bounce, but it's nice to see the DXY continuing to go down. We know that if the DXY continues to dump, that real estate will stabilize because there's not making any more real estate, any more land at least. And so if the dollar index continues to dump, real estate will just have to stabilize. I decided to get into real estate up here. I was talking about that. So far, the property I bought is already up in value since I bought it because I bought it at a key time, right? I decided to buy right at the peak of this right shoulder. I knew it was a good chance to make an offer there, and lo and behold, we ended up closing March 31st. Bang, 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 but had already locked in the rates and the pricing, and everything kind of went our way. So bang. And you can see now the DXY continuing to dump here. Do I see a big pump coming for the DXY? Honestly, I would just flag it out. There is a bit of bullish divvy there. What you don't want to see is an inverted head and shoulder here on the DXY. We'd like to see a bearish flag that breaks down. So we got to watch it. Definitely in the next 20 hours, we'll get more information, but it will take about 3 to 4 days to get, a real good clarity. By Wednesday of next week, we should really have a sense of whether this is going to make an inverted or the bear flag wants to break down. Let the charts come to you and teach you what to do. All right. Now let's take a look at our favorite, the S&P futures. I got to take a look at what's happening to the S&P. We talked about a bounce here. It double bottomed just like Bitcoin. It's playing just like Bitcoin. The DXY dumping. The DXY keeps dumping. The S&P and Bitcoin are going to continue to pump. I see the S&P pumping into next week. Look for in the next 4 to 5 days, right, for us to kind of continue out this flag that I got drawn. Look for this pump to continue. I see the S&P at 5,900 when we're here next, basically where we're going to be. It's the 11th by the 18th, which is right about here. Yeah, I see us somewhere up in here. By the next time I'm here, the S&P is definitely somewhere between maybe even $59,000 and $6,000. So I see the S&P making a pretty big move to the upside. We zoom out on the S&P just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm seeing. And again, it's got this hidden bullish divergence. You're swinging down on the RSI, very oversold, but you've got an uptrend in price. And then we got the fib to the 618 golden pocket. Bitcoin did the exact same thing. And so you would expect a V-shaped recovery bounce and then possibly something like this where we bounce up slowly, take our time, get tight, and then the S&P gets that money printer and we start another big pump back to $8,800, $8,000 S&P. The NASDAQ would basically follow along with a very similar scenario here. And we're looking for the NASDAQ to make that inverted head and shoulder, V-shaped recovery. Again, it's also in that same flag that we just showed you on Bitcoin, the same flag that we showed you on the S&P. So the NASDAQ looking like it wants to boom. And then the same scenario here when I pull the fib from this impulse. We got right into the 786, the 706, and really deep into that 618 retracement. I'm looking for this to flatten out, go sideways, and then when they turn the money printer on, like how are they not going to, stocks are going to continue to go up in value. I know they have to print money. That's what I based, how I got what I got today. I started buying Bitcoin knowing they're going to continue to print money to zero. So I see a bounce off this 618 golden pocket for the NASDAQ. And I see the NASDAQ making its way. It will be a process. It's not going to be easy overnight, but making its way slowly back up somewhere into August to $21,000, $22,000, right? Now we could easily get rejected by the 200, get a slump, and start to fall down and make a lower high, a lower low. If we take this out, then you have to assume our next bounce will be down, right? So I can't guarantee this is going to happen, but it looks likely based off the 618 golden pocket reversal, which is a very, very known and strong place for price action to reverse. I've seen it on thousands of assets, and I wouldn't be surprised if this holds up and gives us a bounce to consolidate for our next bigger level. I'd also like to take a look at gold. Congratulations to gold, hitting another all-time high for gold. Now, the more gold extends away from the 21-day moving average, no matter how powerful it is and how great, it's going to start to consolidate. I don't see it really dumping per se, but I see it just finally coming sideways for a second. People they're going to use the profits to get into something else that's a little beat up and flip. That's just how traders are. So people are going to take profits from gold, and then it's likely going to kind of go somewhat sideways here, but then continue on up. I see just a very slight 2 to 3, maybe 5 week sideways period, and then gold continues to $4,100 an ounce. We could look at the daily, and it could be even more short-lived, but I do see, you're getting really extended with some bearish div now. And the last time gold had some bearish divergence, you can see here, and it went down here while it went up, and it did eventually. It consolidated as I suggested it would, and then I drew this measured move and told you where it was likely going to go again. That took from November 1st all the way to January, so it took about 3 months. I could see about a 2 to 3 month, sideways price action till maybe, late July, and then gold can really start its next big movement to the upside. So that is your macro technical analysis for Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, the total market cap of crypto, the total market cap of all the altcoins, gold, the S&P futures, and the NASDAQ futures as well. That gives you a good vision of what's happening on the macro analysis. You don't want to go too deep, stay away from anything from the daily, but the daily and the weekly really provide a solid look of where we're going. You got to zoom out. You don't want to get caught up on the smaller time frames too much. They're good to scalp in and out, but when you're really taking into account where the market's going, you got to be zooming out. I hope you really like this technical analysis. I go live every single day, Monday through Friday. I live trade. I have fun. We have a blast. Motivational speaking. It's awesome. If you like this and you like technical analysis and you're obsessed like me, I go live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. I live trade. I'm always talking about tips, tricks, strategies that I picked up. I've been doing this for 17 years. I love it. And I can't wait to see you on the next live stream. If you came to the channel, then you're already doing the right thing. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Crypto is life.